Thank you so much for you all joining us for year 3 of the digital series. The time has just flown by, and I'm so excited to share everything that we have in store for you this year. And I'm very excited to have our very first guest as Mr. Tyrone Burrows. You may know him as TJ. You may know him from Collage Entertainment. You may know him from those exciting videos. Stop Liking Man. You may know him as a filmmaker from Get Charlie. You may know him from behind the scenes as a talented filmmaker, screenwriter, producer. The man does it all. So thank you so much for joining me today, Tyrone.
Thanks. Good to be here, Nikia. Good to be here. Then anyway, anyone who knows me know that like you asked me earlier about working behind the scenes. That's a bit of the introvert that comes out. So yeah, but it's good to be here. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the invite.
Yeah, thank you. And just as a little get you guys in on a little inside joke, this interview has been a while in the making. We have had some roadblocks, but thankfully, I'm very excited to be here with Tyrone. And you know, a lot of persons, you may not know it, but a lot of persons they count you and the Collage team as some inspirations behind their filmmaking and creative process.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to get into the creative and filmmaking field?
Oh, okay. Well, first off, I was always tend to tell people a lot that my first love has always been writing, and I guess acting. With filmmaker, it was more of a like this far away dream because I'm a Bahamian, and you tend to hear you hear it a lot how as a Bahamian you cannot, but this and that, da 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 da. But one of the things that always stuck with me, and I have a completely different path than a lot of I'd say the arts community in the Bahamas. So I'd say that I am somewhat of an anomaly because the same reasons why they, leaned more towards filmmaking or why they decided to do it may have had something to do with the circles that they were in, or maybe access to certain resources earlier on, and they have this love, and they know all of the greats, they were singing in the rain and dances with wolves, both movies that I've never seen before. I know Mr. Cardinal Sin, right? I haven't seen the Godfather. That's long overdue. The reason why that is though is because I grew up. I really, really love television. I got in problems with it all the time with my parents, and even then, that wasn't necessarily the primary reason why eventually I ended up doing this.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason was because I strongly disliked the way Bahamians act and speak. Like you always knew that as I say with commercials, they said that. So I would sit down and watch the commercials, and there were a number of standouts, ones that were done exceptionally well. And then there were those that were, like some of the public service announcements and all that. This was years before I even got my hands on the camera, but I've always been writing. So a lot of my inspiration, like I said, comes from areas that people would never guess. If that made any sense. And it's been like that ever since. I'm always more or less inspired by the things that people don't pay attention to, things like science fiction and those kinds of commentary, things like that. That's why I love the genre,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a labor of love, and it's, like I said, it's just something that I enjoyed coming up, and there were some icons too that I always loved, and even then, that would blow your mind to find out who those persons are,
You can't tease us like that, man. You gotta tell us a little bit about who these icons were. You gotta.
And some of these things are so obscure, Nakia. Like, okay, there may be some persons that know about this. There was a limited run series on ZNS, made in the Bahamas, by Bahamians, and it was called The Mystery of the Granny Dares.
Mm-hmm.
And the footage from that has been lost to history. But I remember vividly thinking like, holy crap, we making movies and shows now. So I'm sitting there, and it was Greg Lumpkin. This thing started complete with two people in this couple in this car, just like any other horror movie, right? In Adelaide, and
I could see that being a horror movie. I could see that because in the nighttime, listen.
I was it was the first I've never seen, and I had never seen anything like it before. And there was this thing called a memoir, and I guess they were killed inside this car. And then from there, the rest of the story was actually based on Greg Lumpkin, believe it or not, trying to escape this thing. I am quite sure that the way that I'm describing it actually makes it look and sound like a whole lot better than it probably was. but for me, it was like, holy cow, we on TV. Wow. You know, and I don't hear I don't hear about it anymore anywhere else. And I always liked his commercials. I always liked Greg Lumpkin for some reason. I appreciate Sidney Poitier. I acknowledge that he's paying me, and I like the stuff that he's done, but I still have yet to be the kind of fan for Sidney Poitier as everyone else. But I do love the fact that he was the first Black man to get an Oscar, I think, an Academy Award. But at the time, again, I was one of those kids that grew up on. I hated to see like real humans on screen unless it was some action or fun thing. So I didn't like drama. Lily's in the field, I think it is, and a lot of other stuff that he's done, and I think he's phenomenal. But I found out more or less in just in passing that Calvin Lockhart actually was one of my favorite actors, but I didn't even know that Calvin Lockhart at the time was a Bahamian when I saw him. I call him the Samuel L. Jackson of the Bahamas, because his body of work, and I think the cameos and stuff that he did, there's so much of it compared to what Sydney would have done. But of course, I guess Sydney's role would have been more impactful. But I had no idea, knowing that it was Calvin Lockhart, who was a part of one of my favorite movie franchises. That's the Predator movies. I think some people may know about the Predator movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger get to the chopper. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yes.
Understand? and there's a scene in part 2 where this Rasta guy is being confronted and getting beat up by the Predator. And as terrified as I was, the scene captivated me. And in that brief moment, that was Calvin Lockhart in that alley. And the Predator killed him, of course. But we don't talk about that. We don't discuss that part.
Just the fact present. He made it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I didn't, and the thing is, I think I had a disappointment based on the fact that I didn't know who he was when I was a kid. I didn't know that this man was a Bahamian. I didn't know that he was, I think, Biggie Smalls, I think, in the movie. And I think that was part of the reason why Biggie Smalls at the time had to change his name to Notorious B.I.G., if I'm correct. So
open knowledge.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, and I saw the scene too. It's a scene about, I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's a very I think well-known Black cast. I don't know if it's Black exploitation, but it is a very, very iconic movie, by its own right. And I thought that was so cool. Like, so he was the reason. And so there was that. The other persons that I, really, really admired was my father was an entertainer back in the day. Yeah, he's a lead singer in this group called the Gospel Impressions at the time.
So it's in your blood. You got this. It's going deep.
Yeah, but
it's going deep. You got this in your blood.
Yeah. But I mean, he didn't think it was gonna work. All right. So we don't talk about that. We don't. So he's a pride now. So I guess my tenacity actually came from him, because he would have heard some of the same things, But yeah, my inspirations are, sometimes I feel like nowhere near the same as everyone else. Sometimes I even feel somewhat bad for filmmakers in the Bahamas too, when they have that conversation with me, considering the way I write and how I do my screenplays, and then they find out that I more than likely haven't seen 3/4 of the things that they value and cherish so much. Yeah, and all of my work has been based on me just watching people in real life. Well, of course, persons like Chappelle, but that goes without saying, I guess.
Of course not.
You know?
But I think a lot of persons, they've been able to see that human observation in your work. I can remember back in the day, it was a bit of a renaissance because I remember when Papa Smurf came out and he was rapping, like you could hear that Bohemian. It wasn't
Yeah,
like a Bohemian doing an American accent. And I think around the
I
same
love his
time,
stuff. Yeah.
and that was around the same time that, the Stop Liking Man videos dropped. That was so big that, mommy came on me about maybe 6 months later and she was like, "What is this? Kiki, kiki, kiki." She laughing, telling me the joke. She telling them a little differently than y'all deliver them, but she was telling them to me. And I think this was the first time that something that was Bohemian made, Bohemian produced, really penetrated the Bohemian entertainment scene. And can you tell me a little bit about how Collage entertainment really came to be?
Okay. I also want to state here that it was Papa Smurf too, but this was sometime in 2007, and Sub Like Man, of course, was in the 2010, and I remember us actually being in a studio with some of the other guys like Shin, when Stephen, and I think we stumbled across his, see my age is about to start showing. Back in the day, kids, there was this thing called MySpace, and
TJ, what's that?
huh?
What's that, TJ? I don't think
Yeah,
I've.
we used to write with chalk rocks and stuff like that, like chisel the boy. But we made it. Right? If I mention MSN group, we have to stop the interview.
What pardon is MMSN? Don't make me tell you ask for your screen name and what them statuses used to be.
He was there and we heard his stuff, and this was the first time I say outside of, I guess, gospel rap, because that was big at the time too. This would have been the first time both ends, like Steven and the other guys, heard a Bohemian rap that clearly, but it's not an American accent. It wasn't. It was never Americanized, and you could hear that it was a Bohemian rapping. You could hear that it was a Bohemian rapping. I think that outside of the cultural context, anyone could listen to any one of his jams and just go on. And he actually is one of the main reasons why I thought that this would work, especially when he got into filmmaking, because he clearly created his stuff, being proud as a proud Bahamian. We weren't used to seeing that in entertainers or filmmakers. Most of the filmmakers that we met, prior to recent years, they would sit down and just wax philosophical about Steven Spielberg or how they probably did lighting on some of his movies, or they probably went extra in something that he did. People would probably like, "Oh, well, Spike Lee is coming in town. Get the lotion. You want to make sure that he leave and he remember us." And I respected it for what it was. But a lot of Spike Lee's joints, watched, but I wasn't so crazy about it like everyone else. But again, I do respect what they would have done. But there's something special about seeing local talent do the kind of things that they did, and the hype machine is in there. You know what I mean? And I get to speak genuinely about someone like Papa Smurf and not feel as if I'm just regurgitating something that someone has said, because that's what you're supposed to say. And yeah, his songs. When we did the Get Charlie movie, his I Am a Bahamian song, that's what we end the movie with. Yeah. And I'd asked him for it and everything in it. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that there.
From Hama, hometown boy.
I have to.
Yeah, I still play the humble beast in the gym. Like
all the time.
Listen.
All the time. Except when I'm mad. I say this can make me kill someone. I get them up with Tupac.
Listen, if you catch me at the gym, you can't tell me about that life.
He wasn't, cussing or anything. Like, you could let anybody else hear it, And I
Exactly.
always love that. So I listen to this stuff on repeat all the time.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the same you speak about him with such passion. And I was actually speaking with another filmmaking a friend of mine, and
Uh,
same passion you speak about Papa Smurf, she spoke about you. And she said that, you know, when she watched some of your work, including Get Charlie, which we can come back to that because I can't imagine how many Bohemian films I went to. Was it still called R&D? I went to the JFK R&D to watch that at the premiere date because that was something major. That was Bohemians, filmmakers putting their films on the big screen. And like you mentioned, people are passionate about your work. When you were creating it, did you dream it would have the reach and impact that it eventually had?
we we're talking about Get Charlie, right?
Get your all of your work. Because I feel like, you know, he's like, you know, I put out a little video. One or two people saw it, you know, but you know, it was nice. It was nice. No, 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 I'm picking you up. This I don't have no flowers. I can hand you the globe if you want. But no, I want to talk about people still quote the work that you created. I want you to tell me a little bit about how that came to be. I don't want you to put it down. This is something major.
The thing is, it's so excuse me. I wouldn't say underwhelming. It's just such a natural progression, and I think we don't have that as much.
Mhm.
Um, they just even telling the story sometimes. I mean, it could probably be somewhat of a disappointment to persons because it's not some grand, epic, like the New Hobbit or something like that. Um, it was just, I mean, like the short end of it, it was just really a labor of love. This is something that we would love to do. Um, Oddly enough, the Glenn and I actually started Collage, right? And we were just two mid-tier, government school guys. He was still, I think he was in grade 12, somewhere there about, and I was probably in my first year of college, maybe, or maybe like second year or so. And we shared the same view, like what why Bahamians act like that? I mean, why we can't, why Bahamians give speeches like that? Why they can't just and we would just sit down for hours on end and just laugh and other thing because that's what makes us anyway. So we respected that. And there was a talent show that we saw. We had already been doing like dramas and plays in different places. And this was like in youth groups and churches and stuff. And people always said that, oh my God, it felt so real. And we were like, thanks. We didn't know what to do with it. And there was this competition talent show where there was a drama team. In 2004, there was a drama team and they automatically won their category because there weren't any other drama teams. So we were standing at the back, watching it. This was at BFM at the time. This was Talent Jam. And we were like, wouldn't it be cool if they had somebody to compete against? Right? And I think I still have some of the footage too. So yeah. Um,
As we interspliced, I'd be like, speaking of which, this is a
where the hair was up here and not down here. He so we formed Collage like the following year, sometime after our youth conference there about, and we entered Talent Jam in 2005 when we started the group. We just really wanted to give them competition. That was it. We didn't. We were like, oh, we just sort of, I will do a better job, blah blah blah. We're like, no, baby, nobody doing this. Fine. And we entered, and we we won first place in our category and like first place overall. Our first thing of, and we were so shocked. We didn't expect it. We were like, oh, we're like, wow, this is neat.